that I'm actually here, and then they leave. Oh, was that recorded?
Okay. Please, just recording. Please carry on talking while I try and live stream on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should shut up if that's what's going to happen.
So, Matt, we get together because I get to know what kudos means and what it is and what it stands for in the world.
Mm-hmm. No.
Are you going to share that with us on this live stream?
There is a lot to share. I'm going to share some of that with you on this live stream potentially.
God. Awesome.
Yeah. So just as a second vote of confidence scenes on how he's got his video on, Kevin, Lorna was saying about she has many things that she can supply, many people that she knows who can do various things if I need something. So I said that I need pretty much everything and anything. Is that agreeable? Do you think that's true?
Matt Allen, you said that with such a pretty, naughty smile.
Oh, you know me, May.
I know you. I can read body languages, remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I read look into that smile.
Order.
It's still early in the UK. It's 7 p.m.
Right. Order. I'm taking back control now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'll behave until it's my turn and then I'm not behaving.
Thank you for that, Matt and May. So, all right. A warm... Okay. Can I ask you to mute your mics, please? Thank you. A warm welcome to all who are here. Oh, there's feedback. Bear with me one moment. It's probably coming from the live stream. Right. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, as I was saying, a warm welcome to all who are here from different parts of the globe. And thank you firstly to our speakers, Anne Canfield, Lorna Sherland, and Mr. Miracle himself, Matt Allen. So a little bit, and thank you to our speakers for giving up the time to actually inspire us this evening. Now, a little bit before I introduce Kashulya UK, what the organisation is and does, I'd also like to give a warm welcome to Sharon Smith, joining from London, Kevin Moreau, Mr. Mingle, May Raghu, Dr. Supriya, joining us from Delhi, and Anjua Malik and Melissa Patrick. Thank you for supporting our event this evening. Wonderful. Thank you, Anuja, sorry. Right, so I'm Carol Edmondson, and I am the event host for Kashulya UK, which is a not-for-profit community organisation, very much with the heart of community behind what it does and what it represents. It's a not-for-profit registered community organisation to empower and uplift women but also inviting men to contribute, hence why you're here, Matt. Sorry. The founder is Ritu Sharma, who has dedicated her life to bringing women of this world to find their own power and true worth. The main objectives of the organisation is to empower, connect communities, raise awareness of issues that affect women, to support women who are on a journey to create a life of fulfillment through their personal, professional and financial growth. That was the ethos behind Ritu Sharma setting up Kashulya UK. Projects include support for victims of domestic abuse, empowering communities, personal and professional development, health and well-being, and I host 2 in-person events on 2 Mondays in the month, and on the Friday, 2 Fridays in the month, hosted by another volunteer, we have a fortnightly dance wellness program. So as you can see, we try to get people out of their homes and to bond and gel together. So thank you. Before we start, it gives me great pleasure just to say that hold your questions or write them in the chat as our speakers are taking to the stage and speaking, because once all 3 speakers have spoken, I will open up the floor for Q&A. So you'll have your opportunity to interact with the speakers then. So kicking us off this evening, I'm super excited to introduce you to, drum roll, Lorna Sherland. Lorna is an award-winning real estate broker with over 20 years of experience. Let me just highlight you. With over 20 years of experience. Since earning the Rookie of the Year title, she has garnered numerous awards from the Hudson Valley Association of Realtors, with over 1,000 transactions completed. Facing burnout and medical issues, Lorna embarked on a transformation journey to discover new possibilities. Guided by powerful mentors, she adopted a new mindset that continues to shape her path. Now a transformational leadership mentor, Lorna specializes in coaching driven female entrepreneurs and leaders to discover their authentic selves and build confidence. She helps clients create deeper connections, generate leads, and increase revenue. Lorna focuses on interrupting, disrupting, and supporting massive transformations for those seeking fulfillment and legacy. Lorna's coaching approach is results driven. Okay, so with that said, I yield the floor to you, Lorna.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol, for bringing me onto your community here. I am super, super excited to be here and so, so grateful. We met not too long ago from another event, and I know that you're all about community, and so I acknowledge you deeply for that. I'll also acknowledge all the other speakers that are here today. Really, really cool to meet you, and hopefully we can get connected to speak about a little bit more about each other on a different level. So again, thank you for being here, everyone. So I want to just start out by saying, you know, one of the things that has really driven me in creating a business and a life that I love right now is the fact that I remember when I actually was driving, doing real estate in the Hudson Valley, and I had to pull over on the side of the road. Do you know why? It was because I almost crashed the car. I had been driving so long, doing work for one of the banks that I worked for at the time. And I was just working. That's all I was doing, was working. And that particular day, I remember I just closed my eyes for a quick second. I was driving, but I just blinked my eyes for a quick second because I was falling asleep. And it wasn't until I almost ran off the road that I realized what was happening. And I pulled over and I parked the car. And I took a moment and I said to myself, you know, I didn't come to this country, meaning the US, with $50 in my pocket to kill myself. And so I sat there, and in the midst of that, I was like, wow, I'd reached a plateau in my life. I'd reached a point where I'd lost my vision because I was just working. I was now burnt out, didn't realize I was burnt out until that happened. And that was a wake-up call for me, right? That was a wake-up call for me. Who here has ever felt really burnt out? Really, honestly, raise your hand, raise them high, because if you're an entrepreneur, you, Matt has 2 hands up. If you're an entrepreneur, you have been burnt out. You've come to this plateau. It's like you've been climbing the mountain, right? And now you're at, you know, you typically on a mountain, you have that one flat spot that it's like God knew. It's like he knew, right? It's like he knew that, and God could be whoever you believe in, right? I'm just saying, I'm a Jesus girl, so I'm just going to use the word God. You do whatever comes for you, but just walk with me, right? You've come to this spot, you're going up the mountain. It's like God knew you're going to need the rest. God knew you were going to get to the plateau. So you're at that plateau, and now what? Now what? So I got to that place, and it was a turning point for me. I had to make a decision. What was next? And most of the times when we get to that place, it's kind of hard to make a decision, right? Especially when you don't have anybody in your corner. You know, you've been this lone wolf. Who else? Raise your hands if you're the lone wolf or had been the lone wolf at some point in your business and your life, right? And I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision of, okay, re-envisioning what was next for me. What was next for me? What was possible outside of being burnt out in that moment? So I really took a stock, and I really decided that I was going to go on this journey. I was going to recreate my vision and start a new destination, right? So that's where I want to take you guys is, where are you now? Where are you now in your business and your life? And where do you want to go? Are you where you want to be? Because I'm gonna tell you, if you're feeling any of the things I've described so far, now you get to be at that plateau, whether it's a physical plateau, a mental plateau, you're there, and now you get to decide the next step that you get to take. And I'm here to tell you, the next step is a new vision. A new vision for what the next level is going to be. Where do you want to go? Do you want to continue up that mountain? Now you got to make a new vision, right? It's the next step. I talk about a lot of things. I talk about awareness. I talk about acknowledgement. I talk about responsibility. I talk about connection. All of that is great. And we all need that in our business. But I can tell you that without the vision, none of that matters. Absolutely none of that matters. Anybody here can agree? When you got to that plateau, when you got to that burnout, if you were aware of it, did you realize that none of what you were doing mattered without the vision? None of it mattered. Whether or not you realized it or not, none of it mattered. You see, the vision is the thing that takes you. I'm even going to go a little bit further, not a little bit further, oh, a lot further. It's without that mission beyond yourself. You need that vision, and I show you how to get to vision. But without the mission, the bigger thing, you know, like Carol, like what you're doing, you know, like Matt, I see all them globes, dude. I see them globes. I hear you. I see you. Without that big thing, and I bet you that was the thing that brought you out of that burnt out that you raised both hands on, right? That mission has to be so powerful that it pulls you out of your bed in the mornings. It pulls you when the dog dies. You will say, not that you're not sad about the dog dying, but you leverage that and get somebody that's to take care of it, because the mission is the thing, right? The mission is the thing that's going to get you to where you want to go. The vision is an in-between, but without the vision, you probably won't get to the mission, right? So I want to invite you guys to really think about where you are in your life and your business right now. If you're on that plateau and you're wondering what is the next step, I've now given you a next step. Create a new vision. And I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to share with you just a few of the steps that I mentioned before. The awareness is the first part. I'm making you aware now. Okay, check yourself. Where are you? Here's the other thing too. Requires honesty. You got to be honest with yourself about where you are right now, right? And you got to be honest with yourself even more about where you want to go. You see, that mission is so like grand. This is the legacy. Mission is what you call a legacy, right? So if you can get yourself there, it's okay to be at the vision stage, but know that the vision sometimes falters. And when the vision falters, that's when you get like, like when you're out on the street. I walk along a lake in the evenings, and there's this one light stand. It's always flickering. I'm walking, and sometimes I'm thinking, wait a minute, is that lightning? No, it's the light. It's flickering. That's because the bulb is going out. So the vision can flicker, right? And that's where you get to re-up yourself. When you see that flicker, you re-up yourself, right? So becoming aware of where you are right now, right? Being in integrity with it by acknowledging it. Because here's the thing, without acknowledgement, things are going to come up every single time. And without you acknowledging the thing that's coming up, you're going to be like, oh my God, why is this happening again? Why is this happening again? And it's because you didn't acknowledge it, right? And then the third thing is being responsible. How do you respond? Now that you know where you are, what action, how are you going to be responsible in your action towards the next step, right? And responsibility doesn't mean a burden or a duty or anything like that. In the leadership world, responsibility just means how are you going to respond to what's happening? How are you going to be responding to what you're now aware of, right? And the next step is integrity, being integrous with that next step, always being your word to the thing that you claim to be responsible for. And then the final step is acceptance. Once you have done all the first four, then you get to accept that this is my assignment, and I'm committed to it, and I'm going to get to that mission that I say I want through my vision that I've created for my life. So I thank you so much for having me here. I was not following time, so I don't even know how long I did that for, but I do
You've
hope
got another
that
10 minutes if
have
you
another
want
10. I could go deeper if you want me to. I could go all the way. I wasn't clear on how much time I had to support you guys. But if you have, is that included my questions, Carol?
No,
Is that
questions is
included?
separate, so that's
Okay.
all you.
Okay.
And then Q&A
Okay.
at the
No
end,
problem.
which is separate.
So let's go back to the plateau, right? If the plateau is if you're at that plateau, then you get to identify it and really, really know that you have to decide that you're going to take the next step. What's the next step? Vision it, right? And then you get to have support around it. A lot of us, like I said before in the beginning, the lone wolfing doesn't work. It really doesn't. Can anybody raise a hand who has been successful by themselves? I can't see everybody. Let me put a thing on speaker on clear view so I can see the hands. Anybody has been successful by themselves? I don't see any hands. So then all of you have been successful by yourselves. Yes? Kevin? You've been successful by yourself? No? Yes? Okay. So if you don't have support, that's one of the things that was missing for me, right? One of the things that was missing for me when I was driving in the Hudson Valley at that time, I remember I was doing it all on my own. And one of the things I didn't understand was the power of leverage, right? And once that happened, so like I said, when you get to that plateau, it's really a powerful turning point in life because it makes you think of things differently, right? And especially once you create that new vision, right? So one of the things I did was I started getting a lot of support, meaning I took on, business partners, I took on coaches, I took on just different levels, even my systems in my what do you call that? Computers, like software. I started using all kinds of things to leverage myself. And by doing that, it really caused me to set up a structure. And I'll share with you one of the other things that happened was I was able to pivot and create another business within my business. So you see, a lot of times when we're going through burnout, yes, it's an indicator of something needing to shift, but it's so powerful because if you really go through that process I just shared with you, the awareness, the acknowledgement, responsibility, integrity, and acceptance, when you go through that process, you get to see how now you have such a clear picture of where you want to go that it actually causes you to become more creative. It caused me to become more creative. I didn't know that I was going to be able to build another business from within the business because I was just in the doing. All I was doing was real estate. Yes, to bless my my clients with, having them envision a dream of owning a home. If I said, I've been coaching for 22 years. I just didn't call it coaching, right? But I've been coaching my clients to, if you want that dream, you got to have that vision. And then you got to have the goals and then the plan of how you're going to get there. And that's what I supported them in, right? And so when that plateau happened, and when I created that new vision, it ended up helping me to create a new business within a business. So a lot of times I bring that up because a lot of times people talk about passive income and they think that you have to go outside of what you're currently doing to do another business. And a lot of times that's not true. You can actually build a business within the business you're in as long as you're fulfilling a solution. You're fulfilling a problem for people within that industry. Does that make sense? And so it created something in me that I didn't even know I had. It created me making a decision to do a business that I didn't even think was possible. And I can tell you this, I ended up making, and this is all the reason I'm sharing this with you is not to pat myself on the back or anything like that. It's to share with you what's possible when you shift your vision, right? And this is what I help my clients to do because they can't see it. And because I've been through it, I know how to guide them through it and have them see, there's a ton of stuff that's possible. That business I created in that moment of crisis, I was doing $15,000. When I finally stopped and checked, I was doing $15,000 a month on $30 orders. So in other words, the bank would send me an order for between $30 and $50, and I was doing enough orders to gross $15,000. And you want to hear, sweeter? It gets better. Now that I'm talking about it, why did I stop doing that again? Anyway, I still do it, just not at that level anymore. And so it caused me now to create a team to support it. So even though I was making $15,000, that was because I leveraged the support. It caused me to create jobs. This is like business 101, right? That a lot of people, especially the people who are lone wolf in it, they miss that piece. You could be doubling, tripling your income just by leveraging support, right? So what ended up happening, I created that team. I got, every single level of that business was supported without me being in it and making $15,000, sometimes $25,000 a month on I average $30 orders. Think about it. Think about what I just shared with you and just map that over to whatever business you're in right now. How can you leverage the business you're in right now, right? And create another business and leverage that. Same industry. I'm in the same industry, right? I'm in real estate. And from there, real estate, I went to work for banks, doing something in real estate that the bank needed, right? And created a different business within a business, right? And then from there, I started creating legacy, because I could tell you this, from just that one move, one of the ladies who worked for me at that time, I wouldn't even say work for me, she worked with me. She created her own business within my business. And she got her real estate license. Then she became an appraiser and created her own business separate from my business. So now she leveraged her business from my business. You see how that works? That's what I call ripple effect. The ripple effect. And I could bet, because I'm in this room with this caliber of people, the ripple effect is what you're about, because that's what I'm about. The ripple effect can cause and create so much leverage in the world that you don't even know who you're affecting. I mean, when I pivoted to create that business, it was so powerful, because now the way I was able to do it was leveraging other people. Because I leveraged other people, their lives got changed. I hired people in the Philippines, in Malaysia, and I can well imagine the effect that that income was causing on the people who were on our team. I didn't even, some of them I never saw. I never saw them. Right? That's the power of a powerful mission and a powerful vision. Right? So, I mean, you can build a life for yourself that affects so many people, but it's all about leverage, right? And it's all about making a decision for yourself that you are going to make a difference in the world.
Awesome. Thank you, Lorna.
Thank you.
Do put your details in the chat, please. Please.
Absolutely. Can I tell them what it is? Real quick? Tell them what it is real quick. I'm going to drop in the chat. I wrote an ebook on the disconnect of connection. And it's all about being connected with yourself and connected with people, so you can build a team and build a business that leverages your life, but you are also creating impact in the world. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Bear with. Where's Lorna gone? Right. Wonderful, Lorna. So before I get to our next speaker this evening, I just would like to spotlight her. And here we go. Let me just spotlight myself. Wonderful. Here we go. So it gives me absolutely great pleasure. And thank you, Lorna, again. I can't stress how much I appreciated what you shared with us this evening. Right now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Anne Canfield, MS, with over 20 years of experience, coaches, employees, and teams in business and non-profit settings to excel both at work and home. Holding a master's degree in behavior analysis and therapy, she is also a certified life coach and positive neuroplasticity trainer. Spanning various industries like marketing, sales, customer service, accounting, IT, and manufacturing, Anne has crafted successful programs to boost confidence, enhance communication, and foster workplace relationships. An active member of Toastmasters, Women in Manufacturing, and Thy Eagle's Nest, Anne is dedicated to developing staff across all levels to maximize their potential and impact. Her mission to improve daily while striving for continuous growth. And with that said, the time has come for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you for the wonderful words, Lorna and Carol, for having me. So I'm going to start with a story. There was a very rich man, and he had 2 sons, and he needed to understand how they looked at the world. And so he decided to fill 2 rooms with horse manure. He filled those 2 rooms with horse manure, and he left each son in a room, and he walked away. He came back and he opened up the first door, and his son came out and said, "Dad, that was disgusting. That's awful. How dare you put me in that room?" And the father shrugged, and he went to open up the other door, and he didn't see his son. "Son, are you here?" His son popped up at the back of the room. The father said, "Son, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, you know, Dad, with all this manure in here, I bet I can find a pony." And the purpose of that story is because a lot of what I do, and going back to Lorna about what my mission is that I'm looking to help others to master adversity in a way. I've had a childhood that was peppered with foster homes and dysfunction. And the man I fell in love with, who I love with all my heart, actually has epilepsy. And what I found is I have found that no matter where we are, that adversity is sometimes going to come along. And I really look to be able to help others to become more resilient. And one of the folks that I read this book a few years ago, right after I started my company, I went ahead and read this book by Hardwiring Happiness by Dr. Rick Hanson. And I was blown away of everything that he said in there, of how our brain perceives the world and how that actually functions. And I recognized that I'm the person that always looks on the bright side. I'm always the one looking for the pony. And his book recognizes how I kind of did that. So I'm going to share a little bit about that with you. And part of that is that our brains have one built-in negativity bias. And some people go, "Well, I'm just a negative person." But you see, our brain, everybody has a built-in negativity bias. Our brains are literally Velcro for negative and Teflon for positive, because we go into every situation. The first thing our brain does is says, "Where's the threat? Is that a stick or is that a snake?" And our brain has all these associations and these experiences that we might not even be aware of, that it's actually surveying and saying, what do I need to be aware of? Because your brain's number one job is for you to survive to see another day. That's its number one job, is to keep this alive. So what they found was that amygdala fires a little bit. And what happens is, if we can learn to take in the good a little bit more and start training ourselves to look for the good, we can actually kind of short circuit that amygdala a little bit by figuring that out. So I have another story for you. We all have bad stuff that happens. And the bad stuff that happens, I want you to pretend that I've got a pile of salt in my hand. I have a half a cup of salt. This is the bad stuff. And I take that salt and I add it to maybe a quart of water. And I go to drink a half a cup of it. Disgusting, awful, terrible. Some would say it's actually harmful for you. Recognizing that that water is the good. I take that same salt and the bad and the negative, and I add it to a gallon of water. And I drink maybe a little bit less. It's not as bad. It's still very salty, but it's not as bad. Now I take that same adversity and I add it to 5 gallons and I take just a tad. Some people might say it's actually good for you. And the reason I bring that story to you is because when we think about retraining our brain and looking at the good, it's not the Pollyanna story. It's more of the idea that there is good around us. There's blessings and resources and good things that are happening. But it's our choice that we need to be able to see that. We're not denying the bad. There's a lot of bad out there, and bad things happen to us, whether or not we even had anything to do with it. But what we are looking to do is that when we increase the good, we're putting that negative in the background and we're bringing that good all the way up to the front. So a lot of what I do is to help people to be that resource and to see that resilience. Because one thing that we know is that we cannot change another person. And sometimes we look to go, but if I could just change that my life would be okay. And I work with my clients to say, I hear you and I understand, but here's what you have control over. This is where we start. Because when you change this, that other stuff is going to change. And to be able to teach people to let go, because that amygdala and that immediate threat, because it wants to protect you, guess what? It will tell you, don't do it. Don't go out there. We should stay protected. I don't know if this is a good idea. And what I help my clients to see is that I want you to take the chance. What Rick Hansen calls the dreaded experience. I want you to take a chance, and I want you to recognize that you are resourceful and resilient, that it's going to be okay. I want you to step out. And when you step out, regardless of how it actually ends up, the outcome, I want you to recognize that we are looking for progress, and we're going to look at failure as feedback. Because what we do know is that our brain is continually learning through each experience that we have. And the wonderful thing is that we are the author of that story and that narrative. And when we can take that narrative and I can go into a situation and the story I come out with is one that I learned something, that story, language gives life. And that story I tell is my brain is listening and saying, oh, is that what you want more of? Oh, is that the way you're going to see the world? I'm going to help you get there, because our brains are literally like our genie. Its wish is our command. All we need to do is tell it, this is where I want to go. This is what I'm looking for. Bring me to that. Let me see the good in this room. Let me see the good here. And it will show that to you. So we learn to let go. And then the next thing is we learn to let be. What is it that we just can't, we just have to accept it? And recognizing of what are we actually growing, because our brains are continually learning, and your brains are literally looking for the novelty, looking for that direction. The reticular activating system in our brains are literally saying, tell me what you want, tell me where you want to go, and I'll help you get there. And we can do that. So I work a lot with those clients, and some of the nonprofit work I do is actually with folks that are at the food banks. And those folks that are saying, oh, I want a little bit of a leg up because I want to be able to get into an apartment. But the challenge is, as we know, adversity might still go. Has anybody heard of the invisible fence for dogs? Anybody at all? The invisible fence for dogs, sometimes they go up to the fence and it beeps and then it shocks them to get them to go back in the yard. What happens is, if they don't get that shock because you didn't replace the battery, the dog will keep testing the fence. And if the dog doesn't get the shock, the dog makes a run for it, because he goes, oh, I can get out now. And I help people to recognize, I want you to be that little puppy dog. I want you to go, oh yeah, I didn't get what I need. I'm going to go over here and get what I need. I'm going to try this. I'm going to go over here and keep trying and go. Don't give up. Because here's the thing, your intention and your motives, if they come from that live, kind place, that's what the world needs. I'm looking at this Matt Allen, Kudos and Miracles, and you're 100% right. But here's the important part. We need to show up for that every day. We got to show up wholeheartedly, and we have to be able to take that risk knowing it's going to be okay, because our brain is saying, I don't know, you did that before. Remember in 3rd grade and something bad happened? Don't get up and talk in front of people. Your voice sounds funny. They don't want to hear what you have to say. But when we can teach people to be resilient, and take that chance and be able for them to recognize that, hey, it's going to be okay. I learned and now I can do it again. There's another great book I recommend from Arthur Brooks called From Strength to Strength. And what's great about this book is he talks about the tallest trees in the forest. And he talks about how those trees become so tall and so strong, they have a very shallow root to them. But the reason why they can grow so tall is because all the roots underneath are all interconnected. And that's what gives them the strength. And when we recognize for us to be resilient, what's really amazing is if I can validate myself and I'm validating and I'm resourceful, now I can lend a hand to you. And I'm not coming from an opportunistic or a selfish place. I'm literally coming from a kind place because I'm validated. I can now just worry about the opportunity to give to you and make that connection that much stronger for each of us to be able to connect. So it's very, very cool. And it's wonderful, wonderful work, to say the least. So.
Anne, thank you.
You're welcome.
You did have 9 minutes left, but thank you.
So I do have one more thing to share with you. I'm going to give you 3 strategies, 3 notes about this. The one thing I think I already mentioned before is the power of the pause. One thing that's so important that I teach every one of my clients is, here's the deal. Feelings are indicators. These feelings that we always want to just kind of like, well, we're not going to talk about feelings. We're going to talk about like just get the action done. I'm like, oh, no. I need you to call that feeling out. Because the minute you call out whatever you're feeling and you say, I'm feeling a little afraid right now, and you recognize that, then you can pause. And the minute you ask yourself a question, you actually activate another part of your brain, and your brain loves to solve problems. And you can say, what's behind this feeling I have right now? And it actually calms the amygdala down. The front part of your brain goes back to the amygdala and goes, you know what? She's already thinking. You can just back off. She's got this thing under control. So we want to actually power of the pause. We want to pause. What's going on here? What's behind this? And be able to also be vulnerable enough to ask questions of somebody else instead of assuming. Because we want to have that trainer mindset to be able to say, what's going on here? What do I need from you? How can I help you? Instead of assuming, I know what you need. I have all the information. Theodore Roosevelt's wonderful quote was, it doesn't matter. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And if we can show up with that caring and be able to say, how can I help? Because we don't have an ulterior motive, then we can make that connection and we can help others, and we actually help ourselves because we can actually see that. And then the third one is peeling back the pride. That pride has such a hole, and I'm the first one to say it. And I really have worked and really gained a lot of traction on being a learner, going into each situation and being vulnerable to say, yeah, I'm not familiar with that. Can you tell me about that? And pull a MacGyver to use the resources that you do have, seeing those strengths within yourself and using those to the best of your ability. You know, I might not have this tool. I might not know how to do this, but I can do this, you know, or I have this tool on board to be able to help ourselves. And that type of thing kind of helps us work together and to be able to seek out. So thank you so much for your time today.
That's absolutely amazing. Oh, Anne, thank you. When you finished earlier, it's like, no, that's way too soon. Keep going. I want to hear more. So thank you. Oh, gosh, what an evening so far. So now, before I introduce you to our last speaker for the evening, who is no other than Mr. Miracle, Matt Allen. So, who is Matt Allen? Well, some call him LinkedIn King. Some call him Miracle Maker. Others Matt the Miracle. Whatever you call him doesn't matter. It is the love that he has for all people that really defines him and the huge changes he is bringing in the world. The best part is that Matt has created an umbrella of solutions that arise from everyone's uniqueness and deliver as people are unified. This is the reason why people are the solution, and we are all miracles in Matt's eyes. Matt's solutions include huge innovations in ending homelessness, providing personal data control, personal and systemic economic growth and development, peace, healthier food, environmental and ecological sustainability, learning and development platform, global people-centered conference, healthier human research, increased resources for good causes. Phew. Well, Matt, the pleasure is all mine.
Who's this
And-
guy? I want to meet him.
Oh, me too. I am so looking forward for what you are going to share.
Thank you. You put yourself on mute when you finished talking, whatever that was. And incidentally, so I don't know whether you were drawing a heart or a world. Both are very applicable. Carol, what a wonderful experience it has been so far. I'm sorry that it's going to go downhill from here, but somebody's got to do that to it, isn't it? My name is Matt Allen, and I am founder of Kudos Miracles, Kudos International, Democry. I am here to share some of our work, some of the reasons for that work, and some of the miracles that are members of my team, some of them that are here this evening, some of our wonderful supporters and cheerleaders, May. And just share with the world some stories of, well, at least some words of hope and belief in change and real change that is possible through the miracles that is all people and the solutions that we can achieve together. So, like I say, my name is Matt Allen. I'll basically, first of all, explain what I explained to everybody, which is three things. At this point, Carol's seen this before, so my apologies, Carol. I'm not very clever, so I have to literally. There's three things, so I have to count them as I go. But I'm also a very polite Englishman, so I don't like showing my fingers, so I hide them behind my other hand so that then I can see them. So, number one is a little bit about me, and then number two is a little bit about Kudos. Bye, Kevin. I will see you soon. Stay in touch, mate. Much love. Number two is a bit about Kudos and the original envisagement of the idea. And then number three is a little bit about the bigger things, as if number two was not big enough. Anyway, the least important thing and the one that will get us very quickly over onto the stage number two is me. I'm reasonably old, and I've had what is called brittle type 1 diabetes for 36 years, although they didn't really acknowledge that that condition existed until just a few years ago. And that basically is like, well, it is type 1 diabetes, but it's much harder to control. In fact, it is impossible to control and causes no end of problems and a very discomforting life on a day-to-day basis. Even now, with a state-of-the-art 7,000-pound pump that for most people sees them having a blood sugar that's very much like a slightly curvy line. My blood sugar is a lot more like the Himalayas or a cardiogram, if you've seen one of those. So that causes some complications, things like I am partially sighted. I have difficulties with my bones. I have pains that move around them, and the doctors don't really know what that is. At one point, I was addicted to morphine and fentanyl due to that pain because they were trying everything and anything that they could to try and solve that problem, but that wasn't the answer. I also have something called gastroparesis, gastro meaning stomach, paresis meaning paralyzed or dead, because my stomach doesn't do what most people's stomachs does. It just doesn't move, and therefore gravity moves my food through my system, realistically, not my actual system. Whereas that's different for most other people, it's their system that moves the food through. So I think that's about all that I should share about me. There's no need to waffle on about stuff. Most important thing is part number two. And at this point, I really have to be polite, so I'm gonna cover those two fingers up because it's very. I promised Carol that I wouldn't swear. I'm trying very hard, so no two fingers. So, kudos. What is that? Well, let's talk about the world that we live in. We're on Zoom, and Zoom has some terms and conditions that relate to our data that we provide into it. Even me, whilst I'm speaking now, and the wonderful speakers that we had just before, all of that data through their terms and conditions is their data, not ours. It's not our words, it's their words. They can use that however they see fit. And maybe Facebook, where this is being live streamed to, perhaps they have their own terms and conditions and their regulations about what they believe that data is as well. And they believe very much that that is their data to do with whatever they want. And what Zoom and Facebook and many of the other big tech platforms do with that data is that they use it to make a lot of money and to control us and manipulate us in many different ways. Now, the money that they make out of that, you would think would be useful to solve some of the world's problems, perhaps, thereby actually making people want to use the platforms that they hold. Because imagine if they solved homelessness or created world peace, people would actually think, you know what, that thing that I kind of use because I have to, I actually want to use that, because if that's a solution that they provide, I'd like to know that they're going to provide more solutions, so I'm going to use their products and services. Except I don't think that. They just care about the money and the control and manipulation. And so they carry on and think that they have the answer to the problems in our world, which is us. We're the problem in their world. They don't want us around. Well, I'm slightly different. So my platform, when it begins, will give people back the ownership and control of their data. And it will do that through technology and through some very aligned thought processes that lead us to people being the solution to all of our problems. That is a little bit cryptic because I can't tell you all of the intricacies of how I do that because that's my IP and I don't want to share that on this particular platform. So we give people back control of their data, and then people can use that data to make themselves a little bit richer. I don't mean necessarily to the extent of buying a brand new BMW or Mercedes for everybody. I do mean by giving something back, not just control, but some monetary value, which would help our economies, incidentally. Most of us live in economies that are struggling a little bit because we don't have enough money to spend on even sometimes the essential things like somewhere to live or power to turn on in those homes or food to feed the children that we have inside of those homes if we're privileged enough to have children there. So some of that money will help with that. But who are they giving that data to? Where is that data money coming from? So that's the other side of the platform. That is the advertisers who currently pay money to Google, Facebook, Zoom, whoever it might be, the big tech platforms. They pay them for data about us. And they get that data and then they advertise to us their products and services that they want to sell. They have no guarantee that that data is actually what we want to buy, or that we haven't just actually bought that. And we wish that we wouldn't see adverts for the very same thing for a very, very long time. But we seem to get that situation quite often. So Kudos advertising platform gives them a place to connect to people who are in control of their data, so that then once they have bought a product or service and they don't want you to buy that product and service again, the advertiser is not going to waste their time trying to convince them to buy something that they don't want, need, or, to quote a good friend of mine, desire. So that's two sides of that. What about the profit? What about the money that these big tech companies are making? What change can we make there? Because it all sounds very beneficial to everybody so far, but surely there's something better that we can do, some change in the world that we can realize and make the world a better place for everybody. The things that I do are called social benefit networks, because the main thing in the middle is benefit, and it's all about people. So what we do with the profit is that a large proportion of that is given to good causes. And most people who are familiar with this talk know about me in parks. Let's think about some good causes in parks. What do we have in parks? We have quite often potentially some old people who've gone for some vitamin D and some sunlight and some enjoyable fresh air. And we have potentially some young mothers, let's say, who are pushing their prams around and they want to take a seat on a bench. Except in the parks near me, those benches are generally not very well taken care of. They're covered in graffiti or falling apart. And they're not the sorts of places that young mums should be forced to sit on. And certainly not the sort of places that old people like to sit and enjoy their time out, reading their newspaper or whatever they get up to these days. So we could fix the park benches, couldn't we? Except that doesn't solve the problem. Because one of the further problems is that old people have need sometimes for the toilet, and young mums with babies, they have need to change their babies. Maybe we need to change some of the old people too, but that's another story. And I said to Carol that I would try and keep it clean, so we'll keep off of that subject. So let's fix the toilets, because the toilets are in usually much worse repair than the benches themselves. That's if they're open or even exist. And usually they're filled with graffiti or some other paraphernalia from something. So let's fix the toilets. That's surely got to fix the problem. We can have old people and young people running around in the park doing some good. Except that doesn't really solve the problem. And what the problem really is, and I'm not holding this group of people responsible, is generally speaking some youngsters who have nothing better to do other than to write graffiti on things, use drugs or alcohol or whatever it might be these days, and generally do something with their time because they don't have anything productive to do. And why should they care about the young mums or the old people? Because those people appear not to care about them. They pay money to the government in tax, and the government doesn't give any care about the youngsters. So why should they care about the rules and the regulations and the responsibility of society when society doesn't care about them? No, actually we do care. It's just that there is no money available. All of the money from these big tech companies that leaves most of our countries and they don't pay tax on, that money goes to send them in spaceships to closer to the moon to see whether it's made out of cheese or not, doesn't it? No, I'm not interested in cheese. I'm not interested in money. What I'm interested in is people. And so we will fix that issue with that good cause money, amongst others. We'll give that money to make children part of society again, make young people feel as though they're getting out what they put in, and they want to put in more so that then they get more out. That's how that works, is we all want something, and we need to be motivated to be able to get that thing and share that thing with others. The good thing is that what we generally want is love, to give it and to receive it and to care about other people. That's the beauty of being human. So that kind of covers a little bit of what I aim to do with the profit. But I also recall back to stage number 1, me and my difficulties with my health, and the fact that really there is no getting better, essentially, from some of the difficulties that I have, because money doesn't exist for researching things that are very unique to me. But also, most of the money that goes to medical research is wasted upon things, in my humble opinion, things that are like fentanyl and morphine that I was addicted to, or antidepressants that keep people in their beds and unable to live the miracle lives that they should be able to live, because they're kept imprisoned in this system that exists, from the very food that we eat through to the houses that some people are now having to live without. So one of the other things that we do with the money from the profit is to invest that into medical research, the sort of medical research that I'm not capable of doing because I'm not a medical researcher. And yet I can research those things, and I can teach people how to get over their diabetes or defeat obesity and many other things that I help to educate people about. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professor, I'm not a clever guy at all. I'm just a guy with a couple of ideas, and we really need ideas. We need solutions. We need to realize that people are the solution to all of the very big problems in our world today. The resource that we have, the real energy that we hold, is inside of us. And taking belief in those things and making action upon them is how we result in changing the world. I think most people would agree. I haven't asked everybody, but most people would agree that we need to change our world very differently to what it exists as at the moment. People struggle with so many problems, and nobody seems to have a solution. I have a solution. I have many. I have all the miracles in the world, and we are all the solution. Now, this might sound like very pie in the sky, fluffy cloud thinking. Oh, isn't it nice? You know, it'd be wonderful to live in a much healthier and better and more educated and peaceful world where people actually matter, because currently we don't feel that we do. Well, that's not pie in the sky. That's not some imaginary thing. That is something that exists and something that is coming to our world, because we basically are in a position currently, and certainly for the next year or so, to make a decision whether we will make a change for the good, or we will make a change to continue as we are, and that the world is going to not exist in the way that it does now. The powers that be, whether they be influential from the point of these big tech platforms through to the people who govern us in ways that don't seem to actually be for our benefit, but rather for their own and their friends, these people are trying to take more control on a day-to-day basis. And really, our option is only to believe in a change and to make that change happen. Except there is two options there also. One is that we make a positive change through real platforms that enable people to live more peacefully and in a much better, healthier and happier environment, with some actual money in their economies that actually functions to help them to realize solutions that solve their problems. Or we can pick up our pitchforks and our guns, depending on which country you live in, and try and overthrow those powers that way. And they have steps in place to look after the people who decide that's the option. I'm in the fortunate position of being able to tell you about three things. I don't just talk about a particular platform. I don't just talk about me. So let's move to sorry, showing the fingers again. Sorry, Cal. Number 3. I look as though I'm looking up at the top of the screen, but that's what, if you're watching on Facebook, in Zoom, there's people up above in a strip where we can see them up above, and I can see Carol smiling. I hope you can see her smiling as well, because it's beautiful. So, number 3, let's just explain this way. Now, for those people watching, if you're listening, my apologies. I'll try and depict this as we go. Behind me at the bottom of my screen is some what I call crisis-mus trees, not Christmas trees, crisis-mus. because these Christmas trees behind me are on fire. Because Christmas has not been Christmas for almost all of us for the last few years, maybe for a long time, actually, for quite a lot of us, but it's becoming more difficult as the years go by. And so it's become Crisismas, because Christmas used to have Christmas tree presents at the bottom of the Christmas tree where people could party and have a great time. Except we're more familiar now with the fact that those Christmas tree presents seem to be going upwards to the top of the Christmas tree, and those people are having parties, maybe even during things like lockdown when they shouldn't have, for those people who are watching in the UK. Now, I'm not talking about Christmas tree presents. I'm talking about resource, revenue, power, control, those sorts of things. They're taken from us and put at the top of the Christmas tree. I don't know about you, but I can only sleep in one bed. I don't need a 21-bedroom house. I don't need 12 of them. My eyesight is very bad because of the conditions that I have. I mentioned that I'm partially sighted. I don't need any cars. I don't need a car. I just need to be able to walk again properly without a stick, without a wheelchair, without having to be driven places, because I find it very difficult in this very cold country to get around without a lot of pain happening in my legs. I would like to think that we can actually research things that will make a change to people so that then they don't have to get addicted to drugs that are really more about making money out of them than actually helping them get better. So, Kudos is one platform, but Kudos represents many platforms, some of them to solve homelessness, and not just homelessness, but to be able to change from getting on the property ladder, which seems to have disappeared from the reach of most people, to a property escalator that starts with homelessness people without homes, being educated and being put into some housing that will enable them to be able to move forwards with their lives to a point where potentially they may have jobs to be able to actually create some housing for themselves and other people. That will mean jobs and prosperity and money and homes that are affordable and made out of more sustainable materials, because that is an important factor of our existence, is our world that we live in. It is time that we changed many things. It is time that we thought differently and that we actually think of what we're going to do in the future and whether that actually exists for all of us in the way that we hoped that it would when we were children. You remember those days when we were all so very happy without all of these problems? We're still those people. We still have the power. We are still the answer to the problems. We are now the solution to those problems. And the solutions are very miracles of our uniqueness and our unity that we can enjoy together. So I've covered three things: me, Kudos, and the bigger things. I hope that that gives some people some hope. And I hope, just like Carol, that I can still see smiling. It puts a smile on at least a few people's faces to think that just some guy in the northeast of England is able to think of these things so that then people can live their miracles. Like me, once I wasn't able to get out of bed. One of the miracles that happened in my life was that I was able to get out of my bed, to get to the door, next day to be able to open the door, and then to be able to get to the bathroom, to go to the bathroom in the bathroom. And that's a difficult situation to be in. And by no means the most difficult for anybody. But we all have our crosses to bear. We all have our difficulties to experience. It's not a competition to see who has the worst thing. It's a competition to see who can share the most. It's a competition to see who can love the most, who can help other people to realize that we are all miracles, and that by working together, we can make real difference in our world that really changes it, not just for a couple of years, but for all time now. We don't need to look backwards. We just need to look forwards. Carol, thank you very much for having me on.
Matt. Mr. Miracle. Thank you. Oh, let me just. Okay. Yes, Matt, thank you. Way too short. Way too short. There is so much I know that's in you, and so many plans that you have. And yeah, this is just the beginning. Just the beginning, literally. So please, if you're not already connected to Matt, please connect with him, as well as our other speakers, Anne and Lorna. So I'm just going to.
I didn't have to finish. Oh, can I carry it? In fairness, I started early. Thank you very much, Anne. So yeah, yeah. Other people speak. They're the important people. So come on.
No, you could have.
Can you say some questions?
You know, I have to say, Matt, it was beautiful because, as I always say, adversity can be your advantage. So I love the order that she put us in. That's just beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. You know, and if I may be vulnerable for a moment, my husband has epilepsy. He didn't have a seizure for a year. His seizures picked back up. We're drumming along. We're feeling like life is good. And he gets prostate cancer. But it's one of those things, to your point of saying, we have to be able to see past that adversity. May our trials become our testimony, right? And I love that you truly are spreading that word of being able to say, yeah, life is hard, but so what does it have to do with what you're called to do and what you're anointed to do, and to use your gifts to help yourself and to help those around you? So I applaud that. I think that's amazing.
So, and we all notice very much nowadays that there seems to be a lot more illness around. In fact, I was speaking to a recently new friend of mine who lives just up the road from me, and he's moved here from Nigeria. And a number of other people recently have been talking about this as well, in the sense that, and I'm sure anybody who's living in England, like myself and Carol, we're familiar with the fact that in our doctor's surgeries, Carol was at one today, and in the chemists, there is a lot more sick people. And my friend from Nigeria, he was commenting about the fact that there's so many people sat in these doctors' waiting rooms waiting to see the doctors. And the reason is because modern society, as it is, the systems that are before us and the food that we get presented with in the places that we shop for those. Maybe I can tell you a little story about that in a moment. But those things are fundamentally making changes to our bodies that really take a toll on us. And it's all a fundamental system that is geared towards making sure that we live the life that they want us to live, rather than living the life that we want to live. And both in terms of what we do in our lives, but also in how long we live. There is obvious evidence of historically people living for longer. And that came about presumably because life was different then. And if we could imagine what the differences are now, it's very easy to understand what the difference could be if we were to change some of those things. And I'm not suggesting a nanny state where we tell people what they can and cannot do, but certainly a world where truth and words of wisdom exist is a much better world, where people can actually make their own decisions rather than misinformation or narrative, as somebody mentioned earlier. Mentioning the chemists, pharmacy, Carol and I spoke earlier today while she was at the pharmacy picking something up. My local doctor's surgery has its own pharmacy, and my blood sugar goes up very dramatically and also goes down very dramatically. And sometimes I have what's called hypos, and that means that I need to take in some sugar, preferably glucose, but Trying to get that in the pharmacy in England is very difficult. Trying to get that anywhere in England is very difficult. But I was at the doctor's having a blood test, and I realized that my blood sugar was going low. So I decided to go to the chemist that was attached to the doctor's, because I presumed they would sell some more product that we call Lucozade. Well, whatever they call Lucozade, I don't call them. They decide what their brand name is. But that has glucose in it. So I decided probably the shop in the doctor's, the pharmacy, they would have some glucose water to enable me to bring up my blood sugar. Except they didn't have the Lucozade. What they did have was cans of Pepsi, cans of Fanta, cans of Sprite. They did have chocolate bars. They did have grab-sized bags of sweets and all sorts of goodies for children. If you want to feed your children that stuff on their visit to the doctors, potentially in my country to get some advice or treatment for type 2 diabetes or obesity, like I mentioned before, or maybe just the crisps that we get told they're good for you. Yeah, eat them. We'll stick them in the pharmacy for you to bring your children along to the doctor's appointment, get their medicine whilst you're in the pharmacy. Oh, by the way, the children will see the brightly coloured sweets and want to eat them, won't they? That seems like a perfect circle of what I was just mentioning a minute ago, where the system is set to make sure that we are limited in our choices, capacity, and longevity. Just as a by thought.
Go for it, Jen.
Have you seen or heard of Dan Buettner and his work called The Blue Zones? A phenomenal show. It's a Netflix series, but Dan Buettner has done a lot of research, to your exact point, Matt, regarding these areas of society where there's less illness, there's less disease, and what are those folks doing, and what are those common denominators that is working for them. And one thing that was fascinating was the fact of making your food with minimum ingredients at your house, because it's not just making the food, but it's the stretching on the shelf to get it, and it's the bending down, and it's the physical activity that has to happen when you tend a garden. It's not just the fact you're getting fruits and vegetables, but you're actually kneeling down and you're doing those deep lunges that's keeping your body in check. It's an amazing, fascinating concept. And he actually now is going into places and he's trying to take communities and recreate them to try to make these pods and use what he's learned about the blue zones.
Yeah, there is many communities that are living a life far in advance of what we in the civilized world would consider to be the norms of our day-to-day life, and be blessed by the very existence of those things. And some of those countries that those places exist in, they look at our country in particular, the UK, and they might think to themselves, you know what, I'd like to live in the UK because it looks very rich and very good. But the wonderful thing about things like this on Netflix is that we can, again, get back to that word, the truth, see things that we don't normally see, that we don't normally get represented to us on TV channels that show us what the world is supposed to be like. Recently, I was in Kenya, and we in the UK get represented as the majority of Africa as a country that is covered with wasted grasslands, savannas, and droughts all the time, and civil wars, and certain illnesses that everybody must have in those places. That's a very different experience to what is actually there. But again, we get told that by the people in charge because that suits them to tell us that. And it suits them to tell the people in Africa, in these different countries there, that our country is doing very well. And at some point, I'm sure we did, but they continue to tell them that narrative that, yeah, we're doing very well. We're the system that you should try and emulate because we are the pinnacle of society. Our societies are not the pinnacle of societies. Our societies are the pinnacle of being exploited and manipulated. And we have all had enough of this thing, I feel. Sorry.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree. So the floor is open. Anyone have any questions for our speakers, Sharon?
No, but that was amazing. Thank you for that, Matt. You're on the bone, so to speak. So very true. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. I love your pom-pom, and that is very cool. I've never seen that in a Zoom meeting before.
Wow. I used to teach kids online. I used to teach kids English as a second language. And when you don't know a lot of words, this is very encouraging. They understand what that means. So
Same as the thumbs up. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Someone else has just joined us, just connecting to audio. So, any questions for Matt, for Anne, for Lorna? Well, I just want to say this has been incredible and really has been incredible. It didn't, well, I won't go there, but yes, you know, this evening, I was going to say, didn't sort of start off the way initially, right at the beginning, but it has been tremendous. It seriously has. Hey, May.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to say something. I have to thank Matt again. He has this ability to bring together such powerful people, and the ladies in here, and you, Lorna, everybody are such amazing, powerful, beautiful women. And I just wish I could just join hands with you guys and do what you do, because I've also, everyone has a story in their life, like coming from apartheid South Africa, you can imagine. But a lot of people outside South Africa does not actually know the realities, on the day-to-day basis of what we went through. And I picked that up, chatting to people on LinkedIn. And, they just thought, we were just separated. Racism was entrenched in our Constitution. It was written in the Constitution that you are less and you are nothing and you deserve nothing and you don't need education because you have to do the menial work. And that's why we didn't have education. We didn't have early learning education at all. I remember going straight to grade, to the first grade at the age of 4, and you deal with it. But times are different then. Okay, my upbringing was something very unique and different. I'm actually writing a book about it. But just like you women, my passion were people and children and youth, because I had an amazing dad who did not focus on the apartheid. He focused on people. And he always told us, now it's teaching us from toddlers, remember, there is no one more valuable or no currency more valuable than a human soul for God. So when we saw anybody walking on the road or selling something or begging, we just saw a soul. And we ran and invited them down to our house for a meal. And people often thought, even, us growing up in high school, that we were actually foreigners because we friends with everybody. But I was blessed that way, that, having my dad and the consequences of being raised like that and being positive and loving everybody is total miracles. You can do miracles. Now imagine if we raise all our kids up that way. So I have a nonprofit organization for women, children, and youth. Initially it was children and youth, right? But I just couldn't keep the woman out. She was involved in everything. She either messes it up or breaks it or makes it. Women, trust me, women are so powerful, in the good or the bad. So I had to bring her in because she's the boss. And, you teach women, she will do it. She has the know-how, she has the strength, and having come from the hardships that we all came from, for us to be sitting around here and still thinking of what we can do to change the world, it just shows our strength and our beauty. That's the beauty of us. So actually, during apartheid, we had townships. So the Indians were in one, and the colored were in one, and that's what they called us. The whites were not in townships; they had the whole country, the best of the country, and the Black community were in one. Now, our Black community is 80%, practically the whole country. So imagine a minority controlling a majority and putting it into law. So the consequence, we still have those townships because it's masses of people. And our creches. So now everything has been opened up. Okay, we are a newly democratic country, so we're going to have centuries to go. We need centuries more to be at the level that we want to be. And as you know, Africa has the most gorgeous, beautiful young people you've ever seen. They like gifted from God with creativity. And but in our creches, in our daycares, in the townships, right? You just have people taking care of the child. The children are safe and fed, but there's no stimulation. There's no proper education development happening in the children. And as we know, the most productive thing in a human child, in a human being, is from birth till 6, right? The formative years. And so if we don't get in there and make a strong foundation, we are just going to keep on having youth issues and community issues, and it's going to go on. So I want to start at grassroots level and change that. So, and you ladies are my partners. You are just so amazing. Thank you so much. I also can go on, but it's
What
late.
about me? Didn't we have a WhatsApp conversation earlier? I think that was earlier today about the fact that I have something that will help you to do that.
Yes, Matt. I told you about my plans and ideas. What I actually wanted to do, right? Of course, on the internet, everywhere, there's a curriculum that's available, right? And also, if you watch the television programs for children, like Cocomelon and Peppa Pig, the popular ones, yes, they are teaching our children to speak English very well, to express themselves very well. Our children are exposed to a lot of good things and learn a lot of good things that the parents themselves will not be equipped. But also, on those programs, it depicts like the ideal family. There's a mother, there's a father, there's a grandpa, and a grandmom. But in reality, there's a single mom. In South Africa, grandmom is more the mother to children because of our social, problems, and the mother has to go work. And often there's a lot of orphans, and grandma is the mom. And grandmas actually do the most amazing parenting, but it's not depicted. And yes, it's Thabo here, and he sees that perfect world, and he thinks maybe I'm not enough, or we don't have this. So in the meantime, he's so well loved, right? And then someone told me, listen, you're actually correct. Why don't you get somebody to draw the comics and make your own kiddies program to depict, age appropriate, but to embrace all children's reality and make them feel secure and, included, that they are normal as well. I mean, I was a widow at the age of 39, and I had to raise 3 young children. What do? And I did the best I could. So my kids appreciate it. They didn't wish, they had more than that. They just absolutely value me. So there's nothing wrong with a single mom. Okay, but that's besides the point. Another thing is our curriculums, of course, they're addressing the literacy, the numeracy skills, the language, and some emotional development. They do not stress, most schools stress upon the physical development for sports. You can make money, IQ, yes, you can become a doctor and all of that. But if you look at our youth and our older people, right, the emotional development was not rated as the highest development. But in my opinion, it is the highest development a human should go through, because you can go put a child in any situation that is going to find himself in the future, and he can survive. He can swim the tide, right? Because emotionally he has been developed. He can make right choices. He can, he's not going to be suicidal if he fails at something, things like that. And also in the 21st century, if you look at the situation in our countries, if you look at the crime that's happening, right? Kidnapping, gender-based violence, there's rape, there's all of these things. I don't find in the curriculum that you're equipping the child to take care of himself or herself, right? And, there's the emergency numbers. You have to run to this. Children are innocently just walking on the road and doing their things. So it's not in the curriculum. It's something I want to add on, and also do lots of teacher workshops, because often she's not equipped herself. Things like that.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Hey, May, I have to ask, do they have theater programs at all? Do they do, I know you mentioned sports, do they do any type of theater or arts?
What, in the school?
Yes, in the school. Like you mentioned, they do sports, but do they do arts?
Oh, but of course, if you're rich, go to a rich private school, and then they will do the extra activities, which you pay more for, and the masses are not exposed to that. And yet,
interesting.
Talking about, I said the creativity, I said especially our Black children, right? 80% is has a God-given talent. They don't need to go to school for that, where they can dance, they can sing, they can play music, they can do beadwork. You would think the child knows his math skills, but things like that. Now imagine if you, like you say, if you add arts and culture as one of the musts in a curriculum, that would help tremendously. Hey, thank you, Anne. We can add that in as well. Maybe we can give you some ideas.
I was going to say, you let me know if you need a program. I'll help you out. I've got a kids program for a theater program.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much. When Mandela, do you know how Mandela loved children? Like children would run all over him when he came out of prison, and they would touch him and feel him. He was just something else, right? And when he became a president, and he actually made a speech to say, an old man doesn't need so much of money, like this is so much money, because, he comes from apartheid, and then here comes he's getting a president's salary, and then half of it instantly went to Children's Mandela's Fund. He believed in the children, and that's why he handpicked the next president. Thabo Mbeki was the most amazing man, still is, to actually take the country economically forward. And then what happened. But, and then, he put the money there from his own pocket. So I think of things like that. And sorry to bring up the Palestinian thing as well. It was everything. I mean, he was old. He came out, he started, he set the foundation, right? And we are the ones who has to complete it. We couldn't do everything. So these are things that I am just taking forward. And if I can change the one generation of the youth, I've done my job. I've done my job.
Awesome. That is
So,
awesome.
yes.
Thank you, May. Thank you, May. I'd just like to take this opportunity to say hi to Yolanda and also Christy. Now,
Hi, Yolanda. Another friend.
Christy, Matt, is a
Mhm.
blockchain educator. And that
Okay.
symbol
Mhm.
that you see there is Bitcoins. So
Okay.
she has a group educating women in the blockchain.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is super cool.
absolutely. And there's a presentation every Sunday afternoon talking
Okay.
about tokenization, etc., just so that, you know,
Wonderful.
educating of things that are coming ahead. And I thought, yes,
That's part of what this conversation has gotten to at the moment, is about education. And we're all talking in some way of change in the world, and sometimes that is education, but sometimes education is not changing the world. Sometimes education is just the same thing repeated over and over again. And that's one of the things that we are currently in the process of changing. And we got a recent collaborative partner that we are working together with to deliver a platform for people to actually help people become educated in different matters and all wonderful things, ranging from very complex subjects and very experienced teachers and educationalists, through to one of my friends in Nigeria. He's, in fact, I did a post on LinkedIn about this. I'm sure you saw that, about his sisters, one of which is currently in the process of moving out to an apartment where she can have a studio, where she will be teaching people to make very wonderful cakes. I mentioned housing earlier. I got to know about these cakes 1 week ago, and the cake that I saw first was a cake with a house that was all lit up with lights inside. And then the second one was a row of houses that I actually thought was her house. And there was a skyscraper stood next to her, and she was in the foreground pointing back at the houses. And what I didn't realize was, with my bad eyes, the skyscraper was actually a door, but the houses looked so realistic that I thought she was pointing out a house that she lived in. But she's going to potentially come on the platform to teach people how to make cakes, as they do there in Nigeria, in her city, through to her sister, who makes most of that sister's clothes, about 90% of them, and is designing wonderful dresses that I looked at and I thought, wow, that dress must have cost an absolute arm and a leg, because it looks absolutely amazing. And that's the beauty of people and education, is that once that we learn lessons of how to do things that we love and do the things that we love, that is far more impressive and far more beneficial to the world, rather than just stamping out some boxes that churn out in the end to do jobs, and part of that system again that basically makes the governments enough money to be able to continue the system running along. And eventually that box will get damaged or end of its life.
yeah,
Some of us, though, potentially some of us in this room, we're not in those boxes. We realize that it's possible to get out of them, or we've just never been inside of them. It's called thinking outside the box in some circles, except it's much bigger than that. It's thinking about the real world, the world outside of those boxes. That's the important thing, the people, not the system. And if we need to change the system, let's do that and provide a solution that actually matters to people, that they're actually interested in the things that are there to learn. For instance, Christy, with blockchain, that would be a very interesting course for a lot of people to take, because blockchain is fundamentally the same as crypto in some ways, but also very different. And people see the two things as fundamentally the same thing, which in some ways it is, but in other ways it isn't. That's a very interesting field to explore and be educated in. So, Christy, I congratulate you on being able to teach that to women in a world that doesn't generally even accept that that is what it's called. Most people think crypto is what it's called, or even Bitcoin is what it's called.
More to the point, Bitcoin. Every crypto is just Bitcoin.
So congratulations on your name, because that is very cool, Bitcoin.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Oh my goodness. I just have to say, this has been a special evening. It really has. And Sharon's into health. Say a little bit about what you do, Sharon.
So I'm into health and nutrition. So using nutrition or food as medicine, and trying to support people and educate them to stop eating the highly processed food, which is why I was so impressed with Matt talking about the blue zone. And it's not just the food, it's the sleep, it's the exercise, but I think, as we were talking about, it's the education and sharing it among ourselves, supporting each other, and raising awareness so we can raise our health to a higher level. And let's reduce that sickness, Matt, that you were talking about. That is so prevalent in today's community, in society. We've really got to wake up and be aware.
Yeah. So, Carol, sorry, is Sharon the lady with the raw food, or is that somebody else?
Yeah, that is Sharon.
So, a very interesting thing about glucose, and you've missed out one of the important things here of what is essentially doing us some harm. So we all get told different things that we should do in our day-to-day lives, like we should eat more cereals and things like that, and brown rice or brown bread, or we should do various things and not do various things. One of the things that we get told that we should do a lot of 3 times a day for 3 minutes each time that we do that, followed by chewing gum or rinsing our mouth with mouthwash, is to brush our teeth. Now, you mentioned glucose, I've mentioned glucose, so we may as well talk about that for just a moment. The quickest way for us to get glucose into our body, for instance, if I go to the hospital with a low blood sugar, is that they give us gel that contains glucose. And you're not supposed to swallow that. You're supposed to keep that in your mouth and push it between your gums and your tongue and your cheeks, because your gums and your salivary glands are the quickest way to get that glucose into your body, into your blood sugar. That's what I need, is some extra glucose in my blood. I don't need fructose or any other sort of nonsense that they try and pump out into the rubbish that they try and feed us. But let's just think back about the thing that we put in our mouth for 3 minutes, and we stimulate that with a toothbrush so that then it's activated and all foamy and lovely, isn't it? Except that isn't foamy and lovely. That is drastically poisonous and carcinogenic in most instances. And it's all wrapped up in a sugary, lovely, minty mess that we can fill our mouths with and stimulate it for 3 minutes a day, 3 times a day, every single day of our lives, because that is what we get told. Except that stuff is filled with toxins that make it last longer, or make it feel a certain way, or taste a certain way, and chemicals that are designed to strip our teeth bare rather than actually make them healthy. And so we stimulate that into our gums and our soft tissue and our salivary glands, where it ends up into our blood. And again, we're back at this process of many people in the doctors or affected by cancer and such like. When we begin to look at some of the truths that are presented amongst us as not actually beneficial to us, but beneficial to a system that is there to control, exploit, and do other things to us. I don't want to harp on, but as you start to look more closely at the truth, you realize what the truth actually is. And the truth is almost certainly the very opposite to what we are told. Imagine if we could find a way to find money, like I described it earlier, to put into research that basically turns the truth back into the truth, rather than some fake narrative, as I like to call it.
Yep, absolutely. Going against a narrative, yes. Yes. Know the truth and the truth will set you free. Yep.
Exactly. Sorry, I've started talking again. You need to tell me to shut up every now and then.
No, why?
Are you ranting, Matt? You've been ranting.
Oh, this isn't me ranting, love. God.
Great information, Matt. Very good
Yeah.
information.
This is the tip of the iceberg. This is very top level, like, information that is available out there for anybody to do their own research. And I always say to people, do your own research.
Research, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And double check it.
Yeah, Sharon is also always saying when I pass something by, have you done your research? Yeah. Yes.
I think that we're purposely confused, aren't we? So they do lead us astray, and I think we have a lot of misinformation represented as the truth, and the general public gets so confused. You think, oh, what am I going to eat? What am I going to do? And if you're not careful, you just throw your hands up and say, well, it's never right, or they're always changing things.
We generally exist in a world where the people who are older than us and in a place of responsibility, for example, in a room filled with women, are mothers. And sometimes that is not the truth, but majoritarily that is the truth. And so as people, we have a tendency to look at those in power above us as they have our best interests at heart. And that is part of the narrative that we are told by those people, that they are doing things for our best interest. My friend May mentioned the situation over in another part of the world. I don't want to dwell on that word because otherwise our conversation on Facebook might get flagged. But being serious, none of us want war. None of us want our children to go to war and lose their lives. None of us see the other people as anything other than people, unless we are listening to the narrative of they're the enemy. They are people just like us.
Yep.
They are exactly the same as us. And they look at the same situations in their country and see the problems that exist. Sometimes different problems to what exists in our world, but that's just the case of we live in different parts of the world. We are all subject to the same condition, which is that both sides of any war that is happening now or in the past are obligated to do that because of the fact that it makes their governments and their economies to some extent money. Except now they have perfected the art of sacrificing people's innocent blood to be able to take that money and find ways to put it into their own pockets and the big industries that really make sure that they stay in power and help them to control people like all of us. Except it's getting to the point where people are fed up of our children dying and being told that that's for the sake of democracy that doesn't seem to exist anymore because we only have uniparties that we can only vote for the other side because they're not quite as bad, apparently, as the ones that are in currently. And I'm not getting political because I don't really care about politics on either side because I do see them as pretty much one side of a coin, the other side of the coin being truth. And if you look at the globes, you will see a different globe that doesn't have a K on it. There's called Democry, which is a platform that enables us all to know everybody's truth, actual truth, not what we are told is the truth.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that make a change in the world? Wouldn't that start to open some doors to real discussions and being able to influence the governments and the people who decide that our children should go to war and die for what? None of us believe in that, I don't think. But I'm not here to judge what people are generally about. That's what that platform is for, so that then we can find out what people want. I think most people in this room want peace. If we had that platform, we could ask people, do you want war or do you want peace? And maybe there'd be a few people who say, we want war. But those people will be the people who benefit from that. And they're generally the people at the top of those crisis trees that I mentioned earlier. You just think about what you want in the world. Whether you want your children to grow up to die in another war in the future for such things. I don't want that. I don't think anybody wants that. And trust me, your children don't want that.
Wow. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Sharon. Yeah.
Sorry, again, I start talking.
No, oh gosh, we're coming up to the hour now. And I just want to say this has been so special. And I thank each and every one of you, Anne, Lorna, Matt, Sharon, May, Christy, Melissa, Yolanda. Thank you for joining us. And oh, by the way, Melissa, if you can hear me, I will set up a date with you. So if you would like to be a speaker on this platform, you can see how it's run. Would love to have you.
Melissa is my CMO, and she would love to be on. And if you think I can tell you some things, this young lady is much more of a miracle than I could ever be. I am so privileged to have her on the team. Carol, you've met some of the other ladies and one of the gentlemen from the team. I'm so grateful for them. And if it wasn't for Supriya, we would never have met, would we?
Yeah, that's right.
The miracle that happens from that. Huh?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So please connect with each other. And also, if you jumped on late, please check the chat. I noticed Lorna has put in her details again. Because if you were late, you wouldn't be able to view the past or the earlier chats or earlier messages in the chat. So Matt, if you want to put your details in again, if you did.
I brought a team member to do that. I hope she will do that soon. I have a YouTube channel that shows some very short videos about the things that I'm talking about in terms of some of the solutions. If you would like to take a look at some of those videos. Currently, our website is down because we are midway through developing it, and suddenly we find ourselves with a couple of major projects that we're doing mid-flow of that. So our website may be down for another week or two yet. But Melissa will put some details in there for me for Facebook and for LinkedIn, if anybody would like to connect. I would like to say that I would be able to connect to you, but majoritarily I find it very difficult to read the chat in these things, despite the fact that I have a nearly 50-inch monitor that I use to see all of you. My eyesight is not very good. So if you would like to connect, please reach out. I'm more than willing to talk to people.
Yeah. But on Facebook, it isn't Matt Allen. It's Kudos Miracles.
On LinkedIn as well.
Well, I actually get you as Matt Allen on LinkedIn.
Yeah, but the handle for searching, well, the handle, like you can adapt your LinkedIn web address so that then it says whatever you want it to say afterwards. So mine says Kudos Miracles.
Right. Excellent. Excellent.
It gives people two ways of finding you there.
All right.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much,
Wish you
Carol.
all
I gotta
an
hop. It
amazing-
was such a
thank
pleasure
you.
to be
Thank
here.
you.
Matt
Lovely to meet you,
and
Lorna.
Thank you so much.
Sharon.
Take care.
May, thank you.
Wishing you all an amazing rest of the day and evening, as it is in Nigeria now. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Appreciation to you.
Oh, thank you, Sharon.
Thanks, Sharon.
All right. And it's goodbye from him and it's goodbye from her and her. Take care.
That's an old line, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll catch up afterwards, Matt.
Yeah, no problem.
When time permits.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.